Good morning. I'll invite the Honourable Minister responsible for planning to grace us with prayers this morning.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations, for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray now for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Ministers of Cabinet, ex officio members and members of the Legislative Assembly, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker, messages and announcements.
I have received apologies for absence from the following two members: the Honourable Minister responsible for Community Affairs, Youth and Sports, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Report of the Standing Finance Committee on the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 Bill 2015, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Chairman of the Standing Finance Committee.
I recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, Madam Speaker. My apologies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report of the Chairman of the Standing Finance Committee on the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 Bill 2015.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister of Finance wish to speak to his report?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 64, subsection 7, the Standing Finance Committee agreed that I submit to this Honorable House the report of the committee on the appropriation bill. The committee first met on the 29th of May 2015, and in addition to the first meeting, had deliberations on 10 days, and the last of which occurred yesterday afternoon when the committee met to review the report that has just been tabled, Madam Speaker. And the committee therefore held meetings over 11 days. Madam Speaker, the committee met to consider the items shown on the schedule to the appropriation bill, a function that is referred to the committee by Standing Order 64, subsection 3. And the committee considered the schedule to the bill and agreed the appropriations requested in the bill. And Madam Speaker, once the appropriations on the schedule was changed, one of the appropriations on the schedule was changed, Madam Speaker, by the committee. The committee agreed to an increase of $1.5 million to appropriation FSC 13, Environmental Services and Research, and the revised appropriation is now $4,503,178. And the committee also agreed to disbursements of $5,180,000 from the Environmental Protection Fund with respect to expenditure during the course of the 2015-16 fiscal year, which are to be incurred in connection with environmental matters, Madam Speaker. And as the proceedings of the committee have been broadcast publicly, both on radio and television, Madam Speaker, there's no need for me to go into further detail with respect to the deliberations of Finance Committee, with respect to the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 bill. And Madam Speaker, I am to report to the House that a bill shortly entitled the Appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 Bill 2015 was considered by the Standing Finance Committee, which is a committee of the whole House, and passed with one amendment that I've just stated earlier, Madam Speaker. So with that, Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Financial statements, Water Authority of the Cayman Islands, ended 30th of June 2014, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Planning has been called out of the chamber. So if I may move a motion to defer the presentation of the various papers which are on the order paper for him to present this morning until later in the proceedings today.
The question is that the presentation of papers and reports as stated under order paper Friday, June 19, 2015, to be laid by the Honourable Minister responsible for Planning, Lands and Agriculture, to be laid at a later time today. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Those papers have been deferred until later on today. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Questions to Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet. The elected member for Northside to ask the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment. Question number 15.
I recognise the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Orders 23, 7 and 8 in order that questions may be taken after the hour of 11 o'clock.
The question is that Standing Order 23, 7 and 8 be suspended to allow questions to go beyond the hour of 11 a.m. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing Order 23, 7 and 8 is hereby suspended. I recognise the member from Northside once the clerk calls him. The question.
The elected member for Northside to ask the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment. Question number 15.
Honourable member from Northside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to ask the honourable member responsible for Financial Services, Commerce and Environment the following question. Can the Honourable Minister give an update on the implementation of the new spear gun licensing procedure, which will allow Caymanians over 18 years of age to purchase new spear guns and parts for spear guns?
I recognise the Honourable Minister responsible for the Environment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the answer, as honourable members of this House will be aware, Part 5, dealing with licenses and permits of the National Conservation Law, has not yet been commenced. This means that the licensing regime, in particular the spear gun licensing regime, which exists under the Marine Conservation Law, is still in effect. I am, however, aware that the National Conservation Council has been actively considering the matter of spear gun licensing, and I am awaiting their proposals on this issue in connection with the implementation of Part 5 of the National Conservation Law. Thank you.
If there are no supplementaries, we'll move on to the next item.
Presentation of papers and reports. Financial statements, Water Authority of the Cayman Islands, ended 30th of June 2014, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
I recognise the Honourable Minister responsible for Planning to lay his report on the Water Authority of the Cayman Islands, 30th of June 2014.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the floor of this Honourable House the financial statements of the Water Authority of the Cayman Islands for year ending June 30th, 2014.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to the Water Authority report?
Madam Speaker, members can acquaint themselves with information via the report, and it's self-explanatory.
National Roads Authority financial statements ended 30th of June 2014 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for infrastructure.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the financial statements of the National Roads Authority for year ending June 30th, 2014.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to the report?
Just like the one before, Madam Speaker, the information is contained in the report and it's self-explanatory.
Electricity Regulatory Authority financial statements ending 30th of June 2014 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table the ERA, that is the Electricity Regulatory Authority financial statements for year ending June 30th, 2014. And again, once again, Madam Speaker, self-explanatory.
So ordered.
Information and Communication Technology Authority ended 30th of June 2014 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Recognize the Honourable Minister for Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once again, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the financial statements for the Information and Communication Technology Authority for year ending June 30th, 2014, which is, again, self-explanatory.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Statements by the Honourable Members and Ministers of the Cabinet.
I recognize the Honourable Premier for the presentation of a couple of statements.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this past Friday, the Chamber of Commerce Council issued a public statement concerning Finance Committee's decision to not spend government's money on an entity whose reckless and highly inaccurate 3rd of June 2015 editorial castigated the entire country, called each and every one of us corrupt, and in so doing, jeopardized our economy. The Chamber Council also noted its concern regarding what it termed local and global implications of the editorial and the response of the government as well as the wider community. Members of the Chamber Council noted that the actions of the newspaper and government are causing negative overseas media coverage. Madam Speaker, I sincerely appreciate the Chamber Council finally weighing in on this issue. I also note that besides acknowledging the views of the Finance Committee, the Council has taken note of the wider community's response, that the editorial and the actions of David Legge after supposedly fleeing Cayman have not been positive. I am disappointed, though, Madam Speaker, that the Chamber response fell short of condemning the Compass's offending editorial entitled Corruption and Insidious Creeping Crime. It is David Legge's direct actions, histrionics, and fabrications that have directly caused the international media stories that give the Chamber Council and the government concern. Yet, I do not see the Chamber publicly stating its concern for Mr. Legge's actions. Madam Speaker, not content with the damage he had done by publishing the editorial in the first place, Mr. Legge, that fearless defender of freedom of the press, falsely claimed to have been given police protection by the governor and departed these shores with his wife in tow because of fears for their personal safety. He then spent the following week doing the international media circuit, seeking to damage the reputation of Cayman further by giving interviews to anyone who would listen to him, suggesting that not only was Cayman a place that was corrupt to its core, but that it is also inhabited by a violent people who would have done him real harm had he not fled. Madam Speaker, I am certain that the Chamber Council must see, and they must be concerned by, the Compass's almost daily attacks on our financial services industry when it creates inferences regarding FIFA and the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority that have no real basis in fact and serve no purpose other than to sell newspapers and possibly serve some other undetermined agenda. This gives the government and me much concern. Madam Speaker, in private, some on the Council have told me that the Compass editorial of June the 3rd was dastardly and had potential to damage our reputation, as were the actions of the publisher when he supposedly fled Grand Cayman to the safety of Florida and then went about systematically making wild claims to the overseas media. I believe, Madam Speaker, they may also privately wonder what Mr. Legge is really up to. But, Madam Speaker, with all due respect to the good people on the Chamber Council, for whom I have the greatest respect and regard, I would suggest that if they wish to live up to the Chamber's vision and mission statements, then they cannot sit on the sidelines, but must speak out even when the private sector gets it wrong, including the press. Madam Speaker, we, who the people of this country elected to govern, cannot and will not sit on the sidelines. The people of Cayman can be assured that I, as Premier, and this government, and indeed, Madam Speaker, we have seen this entire House, will stand up and defend Cayman, our people, and our business community. If this means that we must face even sharper barbs and more strident condemnation from the Compass editorial board and its attempts to involve the international media in a battle against us, then so be it. I want to reassure the Chamber, the country, and indeed all media that this government will never be one to censor the press. I repeat what I said in my statement to Finance Committee on June 5th, and I quote, "A free press is important to a free society, and I will defend at all times the need for a free press. But I will not sit by and say nothing when the Compass takes that freedom for granted and is as reckless, disingenuous, and irresponsible as was its editorial on Wednesday," unquote. Madam Speaker, in that statement, I also noted, and again I'm quoting, "It goes without saying that the government of the day is to expect scrutiny, criticism, and challenge from the press. In fact, it is the media's job to take us on. But the editorial in question was not about the government, and it was not about me. It was about the people of Cayman. It called us by name," unquote. So, Madam Speaker, I will say again that while I will always fight for a free media, any media house that will fight against my country unjustly to sell newspapers or to swell the ego and the coffers of a publisher while harming Cayman's reputation is not one that, in my view, should be subsidized in part by public funds. Madam Speaker, the Society of Professional Journalists, the oldest organization representing ethical journalism in the United States, recognizes a number of broad principles that should be applied to journalism, namely to A, seek truth and report it, B, minimize harm, C, act independently, and D, be accountable and transparent. Ethical journalism, the Society says, should be accurate and fair. Journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information, but always be accurate and not oversimplify in promoting or summarizing a story. Journalists, it says, should avoid stereotyping and must examine the ways that their values and experiences may shape their reporting. At all times, journalists should aim to be balanced. Ethical journalism balances the public's need for information against any potential harm that could be caused. The pursuit of the news is not a license for arrogance or undue intrusiveness. Madam Speaker, if only the Compass's editorial board and David Legge would aspire to such high principles. Madam Speaker, this Finance Committee has called for a ban on advertising with a publication that is systematically seeking to inflict serious, if not fatal, damage to the reputation of these islands and its people. Mr. Legge's message is, Cayman is a corrupt and violent place inhabited by incompetent and immoral people. That message continues to be hammered home by Mr. Legge and his publication at every opportunity. The most recent pronouncement by the Compass that the Cayman Islands is, quote, culturally steeped, unquote, in corruption was really the final straw. But the practice of denigrating the country and its people has been the modus operandi of David Legge for many years and can be traced back to earlier publications such as his Grand Caymanian magazine. Over the past 2 years, plus since he bought the Compass, the attacks on Cayman and its people have escalated manifold. Indeed, there are many in the wider community that believe the publisher cares very little for these islands and our people. His recent actions are proving them right. Indeed, Madam Speaker, the Compass is now running an online poll this very day, the integrity of which appears to be doubtful, but which seeks to determine what participants think of the degree of corruption in Cayman. I urge the people of these islands to weigh in on that poll and send a resounding message to Mr. Legge and his editorial board. Madam Speaker, the Compass and its supporters in the international media have sought to frame this confrontation by the Legislative Assembly and the Compass as a freedom of the press issue. It is not. The Compass, as any other media house in Cayman, is free to publish whatever it wishes, subject only to the laws with respect to defamation. And they do. Just look at today's editorial. So, Madam Speaker, the issue is not about freedom of the press at all. On the other hand, the Cayman Islands government and the private sector spend millions and millions of dollars every year promoting the Cayman Islands as a good place to live, work, play, and invest. We spend millions more defending Cayman's reputation internationally and seeking to dispel the image of Cayman as a shady tax haven where tax cheats and money launderers abound. It is, Madam Speaker, a never-ending battle we fight. We have done everything as a country that has been required of us and more to ensure that we meet the highest international standards with respect to regulation of our financial services industry, anti-money laundering legislation, transparency, and cooperation with respect to tax information exchange. Yet, as developments this week demonstrate, we still get unfairly blacklisted. Madam Speaker, we have enough enemies abroad. We do not need enemies within our midst seeking to undermine the entire basis of our economy and society by claiming that we are culturally steeped in corruption. The decision of Finance Committee not to continue to advertise with the Compass is a vote by this House not to continue to subsidize a campaign aimed at destroying the economy of the Cayman Islands and the livelihood of its people. It is as simple as that. The Compass is free to continue to print whatever it wishes. It just will not be subsidized by the taxpayers of this country, who Mr. Legge claims are all corrupt. As such, the government will stand by the commitment to the ban. But should David Legge and the Compass editorial board have a change of heart and publicly apologize to the people of the Cayman Islands for the editorial which accused the entire country of being corrupt, and for his subsequent actions and statements, the government's position may change. Such an apology must be in a form acceptable to the government and must appear on the Compass front page as well as on its editorial page, and receive the same degree of international coverage as did Mr. Legge's flight from these islands. Until then, the ban will remain in place, and this government will ensure that going forward, government advertising will be fairly distributed to other media houses, many of which have complained for years about the Compass receiving the bulk of government business. This will help to ensure that these islands will not be held ransom by a single major publication with a publisher whose ambition and ego seemingly make him believe he's omnipotent. I encourage the Chamber Council to reach out to the publisher and to say to him what they will not say publicly, that he was wrong, and to advise him and his editorial board to apologize to the country. Madam Speaker, I have received another letter from the Chamber President, presumably on behalf of his council, noting their support for my message of zero tolerance to any form of illicit activity in the Cayman Islands. I thank them for that confirmation. In his letter, the Chamber President also states that government must ensure that regulatory and law enforcement agencies and departments, such as the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority and the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, should be, quote, directed to this matter so that we can demonstrate to the world that we have the ability and desire to cooperate with international agencies involved with these investigations, unquote. Madam Speaker, I will point out for the benefit of the Chamber President, his council, and the media that despite CIMA and the RCIPS being required under law to act independently of government, my statement of June 3rd regarding the FIFA investigation included the following comment, and I quote from that statement: "We can confirm that local law enforcement agencies are cooperating with international investigating authorities, but it would not be appropriate for the government of the Cayman Islands to pass comment on the ongoing investigations in this jurisdiction or elsewhere. Those are matters for the relevant investigating authorities and ultimately the courts. Justice requires that investigations into allegations of criminal offending and any subsequent prosecutions are conducted with scrupulous care. We are confident that justice will, in the end, be served," unquote. Madam Speaker, I also went on to say, quote, again, in the same statement, "We are also satisfied that the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority is taking all appropriate action in respect of the stated involvement of Fidelity Bank and Trust in this matter, and that the bank is also fully cooperating with the relevant authorities. The Cayman Islands has a reputation for engagement and achievement of very robust global standards in relation to the regulation of domestic and cross-border financial transactions. Our excellent ratings from assessments by the Global Forum and the FATF certainly demonstrate this. The government of the Cayman Islands takes a zero-tolerance approach to anyone carrying out illicit activities through the Cayman Islands. We do not intend to compromise the hard work we have done over the past couple of decades and the good rating and reputation we have earned. Finally, we have a long history of cooperating with global and in particular U.S. authorities, and there is no doubt that we have and will continue to fully assist in the investigation and ultimate conclusion of these matters," unquote. Madam Speaker, I hope that by repeating this again today, that the Chamber and all in the news media, including the Cayman Compass, will be satisfied. But Madam Speaker, I know that you understand, as does everyone in this government, that we will vociferously fight against corruption in all forms. The People's Progressive Movement more than any other political entity, has done much to bring about laws to help protect our islands from the ill effects of corruption. As such, Madam Speaker, I am not sure why the Chamber, the Compass, or any other group would assume that we or the relevant authorities are ignoring the FIFA issue. That assumption is very, very wrong. The Chamber and the Compass should know that frank conversations with all relevant entities have happened, and given my statement, they should be willing to accept what I said at face value. If they have a question, then they can call me. They all have my telephone number. But the Chamber, the Compass, and others must recognize, Madam Speaker, that while they believe they have responsibility for the public good, it is me as Premier, my ministers and councillors, the Speaker, and the other members of this Honourable Legislative Assembly that carry the burden of political leadership in this country, and that we are not always free to say whatever comes to mind, or indeed all that we may wish to say, because we must consider the wider public good at all times. I go to sleep every night appreciating that upon our shoulders lies much responsibility. Madam Speaker, I know that you and all within these chambers understand that we must act cautiously and take great care about what is said, or maybe more importantly, what is not said. Not only because there are active criminal investigations underway, but also because little is accomplished or changed by reckless statements that can cause definite harm. This applies to government as it does to the press. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to address the concerns of the Chamber Council and to put forward the views of the government. I hope that as we move forward, the publisher of the Compass will reconsider his approach and perhaps listen to the views of the wider community as to his stewardship of the Compass. Listen to them, Madam Speaker, and apologize to them. And I hope, Madam Speaker, that the Chamber will help me deliver that message to the Compass. I thank you for your attention.
I once again recognize the Honourable Premier for the delivery of his second statement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today it gives me great pleasure to bring to this Honourable House and to lay on its table the Progressives-led government's midterm report, Steering a True Course.
So ordered.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to speak to the report.
Please proceed, Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, this government has made excellent progress over the past 2 years in moving forward our plans for this term. And if you line up this midterm report with the manifesto of the Progressives, you will quickly see that we are delivering on our promises. The country is making progress, Madam Speaker, progress that is based on turning around an economy that was at a standstill and in threat of backsliding under the previous administration. Today, we have an economy that is stronger, more sustainable, and growing, with our gross domestic product up a respectable 2.1% in 2014, with all indicators pointing to further increases next year and beyond. In simple terms, under our stewardship, the economy is improving and growing. The USA, by comparison, which has one of the largest and most diversified economies in the world, recorded a 2.4% growth at the end of last year. So given our size, comparably, we have done very well, and we expect this to continue through 2016. This growth has not happened by chance or luck, Madam Speaker. It is the direct result of this administration's sound and sensible planning and our disciplined implementation of those plans. When this government took over in May 2013, this country's finances were in dire straits because of the management of the now Leader of the Opposition when he was Premier and Minister of Finance, and Minister of almost everything else. During our tenure, revenues have increased from $618.4 million in 2012-13 when we took office, to $660.2 million in this fiscal year, and growing to $661.2 million in 2015-16. All this, Madam Speaker, despite government giving up revenues totaling $12.6 million over 2 years with the duty reduction on diesel CUC uses for electricity production. On the cost side, expenses were cut from $558.1 million in 2012-13 to $538.7 million in 2014, even with increased expenses of about $14.5 million in the new budget to fund a 4% cost of living adjustment for civil servants, funding for Cineco, Siemens ex gratia grants, e-government initiatives, and several other measures, core government's budgeted expenses of $552.8 million for the next fiscal year are still less than total expenses for the last UDP budget under the now Leader of the Opposition. The government's net operating surplus has increased from about $60 million at June 2013 to $121.5 million in 2014-2015, and $108.4 million in the 2015-2016 budget, which we have just approved. Importantly, these numbers are even more impressive when you consider the combined $30 million negative impact of the surplus from revenue given up by government in various duty reductions and the increases in expenditure noted previously. And government has maintained a healthy surplus without any new borrowing and with no new taxes. In fact, Madam Speaker, this government has significantly reduced taxes. Debt is also being reduced from $575.2 million at June 2013 to $503.4 million at June 2016, a decrease of $71.8 million. And we have firm plans in place to reduce debt even further. As the Minister for Finance noted in his budget address, we have established a debt service sinking fund that now has a balance of $18 million that can be drawn on if needed. And as I have mentioned previously, government continues to operate without the need for an overdraft to fund recurrent expenditure. This has been achieved through prudent money management and has not only saved at least $800,000 in overdraft interest annually, but also tens of thousands in other bank fees. Additionally, interest rates were renegotiated with local banks to lower those rates for the remaining term of 5 of government's loans. Madam Speaker, as you also heard the Minister of Finance tell us some weeks ago, government's total cash balances are expected to grow to $341.6 million by the 30th of June 2016. So, Madam Speaker, since coming to office, we have delivered credible and sensible budget plans with strong revenue growth coupled with prioritized and controlled expenditure that have led to good surpluses. We have delivered on our promises to the country and on our legal and constitutional obligations to the United Kingdom. However, we have delivered them not just to satisfy the UK, but because they are right for our country. And so with a growing economy, we have seen more Caymanians being able to find jobs again. The unemployment rate for Caymanians fell from 9.4% in 2013 to 7.9% in 2014 because of increased economic activity, such as construction works that have begun in recent years, or from existing businesses that have started to rehire. Our government has also encouraged many new business startups to invest in Cayman, which has led to even more work for our people. But more jobs are needed, Madam Speaker, not just for this year or the next, but for the years to come, as the country grows and our young men and women enter the workforce. That is why we have worked hard over the past 2 years and will continue to do so, to create an environment that enables the growth of existing businesses, encourage local business startups, and attract new businesses to our shores. And government is also doing its part, pardon me, And government is also doing its part by investing in the necessary infrastructure, including roads, airports, the landfill, and cruise berthing, which will assist private growth. We now have a growing private sector that once again believes it can trust government to keep its word, negotiate in good faith, and stand by its commitments. This renewed confidence, Madam Speaker, coupled with our good stewardship of government finances and an overall feeling of stability, have helped create an atmosphere that stimulates local business and has attracted private sector investment. And so we now see several major initiatives comfortably moving forward or coming to the fore, creating jobs and thus further building confidence. These initiatives are well known and include the Kimpton Hotel, the redevelopment of the Old Hyatt property, the Ironwood Golf Community Project, Cayman Bay expansion, including a new hotel, the Beach Bay Condos project, and others. But there's another new initiative to add to the mix with the sale and redevelopment of the Treasure Island Hotel, a new development which will transform the property into a quality branded hotel. Madam Speaker, each and every one of these projects has benefited from this government's support and encouragement, which has translated into hundreds of job opportunities for Caymanians. This growth has also provided more revenue to government, which along with sensible cost cutting has enabled this administration to leave more money in the pockets of businesses and individuals, all because we have been strategic and disciplined. Disciplined financial management has enabled us to restore the long overdue cost of living adjustment to civil servants at 4%. This will effectively put $7.5 million into the collective pockets of civil servants that should be spent in the local economy every year. Disciplined financial management has allowed us the ability to reduce the import duty on fuel Caribbean Utilities Company uses to generate electricity by 25 cents per gallon this past January and reduce another 25 cents per gallon next January. We will have erased the 45-cent increase put on by the UDP and are moving from a high of 75 cents per gallon under the UDP to 25 cents a gallon duty by January 2016 under our capable leadership. Madam Speaker, while bringing much needed relief to households, this duty reduction also brings cost savings to businesses. All told, the doubling of duty reduction equates to $8.4 million left in the pockets of individuals and businesses each year. With these savings, Madam Speaker, I urge businesses to take the opportunity to reduce prices to consumers. Disciplined financial management has allowed government the ability to reduce the import duty to licensed traders from 22% to 20% at a savings to businesses of at least $4 million annually, which will also allow for better prices to consumers. And disciplined financial management has meant that government has not only reduced its debt, but it has also not needed to borrow to fund operating activities or capital works. And importantly, it also means that we have not introduced any new tax measures on our people and businesses these past 2 years and have no plans to introduce any over the remainder of this term. Disciplined financial management also means that from the next budget year, we will not require budget approval from the United Kingdom. I will repeat, Madam Speaker, the economic growth we are experiencing, the availability of more jobs for Caymanians, and the greatly improved financial position of government has not happened by chance or luck. It is the direct result of this administration's sound and sensible planning and our disciplined implementation of those plans. These plans include the development of a sustainable solid waste management system that we anticipate will serve us for at least the next 50 years. We all know that waste has been a problem for these islands for decades, but no government has been willing or able to tackle this issue, meaning that it has gotten worse as more and more rubbish from a growing population and visitor base has been added to the landfill, particularly here on Grand Cayman. The Progressives-led government, though, does have the courage to tackle our waste management problem. We are doing so in a systematic way that will not only fix the dump, as some like to say, particularly the compass, but will also look to bring about a sea change in the attitudes and behaviors of our people toward what we use and discard by ramping up recycling and composting efforts. Putting in place a proper waste treatment facility will take time, but it will be done properly under this administration. In the interim, we have also made dramatic improvements to the way the Georgetown landfill was being mismanaged. These improvements have included new equipment, such as 10 new garbage trucks and a compactor, as well as operational changes. These improvements will not only lessen the opportunity for fires to flare up, but have also returned domestic and commercial garbage collection to normal levels. Madam Speaker, this government continues to support local and international investors who, like us, want to develop and improve Cayman's economy. As I have indicated earlier, the stability and confidence that everyone in Cayman, including businesses and investors, feels with this government at the helm has helped immensely to allow projects to go forward, bring back jobs, and to grow the economy. While over the past 2 years we have been looking to attract new businesses and diversify the economy, property development has continued to be a main economic driver, which we expect to continue over the next several years. Recognizing this, we worked with and encouraged developers to bring forward plans that are good for Cayman and our people, but always ensured that we get the best deal possible. Where agreements were already in place, we renegotiated for a better deal, and we have been successful. In addition to its $309 million Kimpton Hotel project on 7 Mile Beach, DART has committed to invest $400 million in new infrastructure over the course of the next 10 years. The commitment is part of this government's renegotiated National Roads Authority agreement, which also contains DART's consent to forego receipt of the 50% hotel room tax they had negotiated under the UDP. The renegotiated agreement is one that provides a better deal for the country and allows DART Realty the ability to develop its properties and to see a reasonable return on its investment. But we believe the developments that DART is doing will be good for Cayman for many years to come. Madam Speaker, Health City in East End celebrated its first anniversary this year. This is a project that the Progressives supported from its inception when we sat on the side opposite. It's a project we continue to support as we have continued to work closely with the developer during construction and over the past year. Just this past May, Health City also received the coveted JCI Gold Seal of Approval, which will enable it to better attract patients from the United States. We will continue to work closely with Health City, not only as it expands its overseas patient base, but also as it plays an important role in saving lives right here in Cayman. Madam Speaker, Cayman Enterprise City is another entity that the Progressives has supported, particularly under CEC's current management team. To date, CEC has enticed 140 companies to the Cayman Islands to set up physical staffed operations within the Special Economic Zone, and there are now approximately 251 people working there. Last year, I attended the Internet Marketing Association's conference in the United States to help promote CEC and Cayman, the outcome of which was an IMAC Leadership Summit in Cayman this year, and IMAC's plans for a larger conference next year. The potential for CEC and Cayman to benefit from this relationship by attracting IMAC members to do business in Cayman, while also increasing our tourism numbers, is promising. And last month, we announced that we had renegotiated an improved government's agreement with CEC to allow government flexibility in granting Cayman businesses the ability to enter segments previously locked down as zone businesses. Government has also partnered with CEC to introduce a maritime park that will serve to bring new business and jobs to Cayman. Madam Speaker, this government's support for business extends to local investors as well. This includes the Grand Palazzo, which will be a major Caymanian waterfront development on North Sound, providing jobs for Caymanians on all levels of the project. To further support businesses, we have been successful in the passage of much needed and anticipated legislation, such as amendments to the Trade and Business Licensing Law, which leads to a more structured business licensing regime by allowing the Trade and Business Licensing Board to function more effectively, simplifying business registration, and curtailing illegal vending. In addition, changes to the liquor license law are being drafted and will update antiquated legislation that allows liquor licenses to be traded as commodities and makes it difficult or costly for those who want to open bars or restaurants. The second-hand dealers law was approved and is protecting consumers and businesses by putting strict regulations on pawn shops and those who have businesses that buy second-hand items like jewelry, electronics, and even metals like copper wire. Regulations include strict requirements to maintain records on the identity of sellers. It also dissuades pawn shops and metal buyers from being a first source to fence stolen items, which should in turn bring a reduction in break-ins and thefts. The law not only ensures that this segment is properly regulated, but it also serves as a tool to deter criminals and assist law enforcement in combating crime. Madam Speaker, the new exempted limited partnership law and regulations were implemented in August of last year. With the implementation of this law, the General Registry processed 2,900 applications, an increase of 22% in the number of new registrations over the previous year. An online system was developed and as of last month has 131 subscribers with 1,039 users. This legislation is important for financial services as it makes Cayman more competitive and positively impacts revenues to government and financial services industry jobs. Cayman's governmental framework for intellectual property is being updated in the areas of copyrights, trademarks, and patents. There are several notable benefits to modernizing Cayman's intellectual property protection from safekeeping of locally created content to an increase in Cayman's attractiveness for foreign investment. It will also broaden local access to goods and services and has the potential for increased government revenue and creation of jobs for our people. Also helping us build a strong, thriving, and diverse economy is tourism. Our tourism numbers are growing at record levels, with key stayover numbers up by an impressive 10.84% in calendar year 2014 over the numbers in 2013, and with cruise tourism up 16.98% for the same period. To help support these growing numbers, this progressives-led government is making much-needed improvements to our airports and working diligently on cruise berthing facilities. The financial transaction model has been approved by Cabinet, and discussions with cruise lines on the financial transaction model are taking place. The environmental impact assessment for the cruise berthing facility has been completed and is now undergoing public consultation. Madam Speaker, I acknowledge that the environmental assessment has identified several issues, so the viability and economic benefits of cruise berthing must be understood and carefully weighed against those concerns. However, I must point out that unlike the cruise berthing plans under the UDP, this government committed and has delivered on its promise to ensure that a proper assessment of the environment was conducted before finalizing any cruise berthing plans. At Owen Roberts International Airport, we constructed a new temporary department lounge that accommodates 200 plus additional passengers and provides added departure gates and restrooms. This has given much needed relief to our own traveling public and visitors, while main airport improvements are being made. The master planning for the overall improvements has been done, and design plans are now being finalized for the airport itself. Work will begin this year on the new or the redeveloped airport. On Cayman Brac, the construction works to enhance the Charles Colonel International Airport Terminal to full international airport standards was completed, and a ribbon cutting to mark the occasion took place on the 29th of January this year. The main improvements were security related and will bring the airport in line with United States Transportation Security Administration requirements and improve overall passenger comfort. They will also allow the airport to become classified as an international airport, allowing direct flights from the United States. Madam Speaker, in October 2014, Cayman Airways began enhanced air travel between Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac with the introduction of the 30-seat Embraer 120. Madam Speaker, with more and more people coming to our shores, it is imperative that we have proper infrastructure in place to keep our visitors and residents moving. Work is finished on the widening of Godfrey Nixon Way and has greatly smoothed out the traffic flow with its 3 lanes, 2 directional and a center lane, for turning into the numerous businesses along that bustling stretch of road. The improvements also include better sidewalks and a cycle lane, making the roadway safer for drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists. Godfrey Nixon Way will also be connected in the coming year to North Church Street. Similar work is planned on Smith Road this year as part of a master plan to improve traffic flows in Georgetown. Improvements to Smith Road will be similar to that done on Godfrey Nixon Way and will help reduce traffic delays. Smith Road will also be connected to Elgin Avenue with a new road, and Elgin will be connected to Eastern Avenue. All of these road changes will allow traffic to move more directly between these key roads without the necessity to enter central Georgetown. I thank everyone in this Honorable House and those listening and viewing these proceedings for their patience as ongoing roadworks progress. Madam Speaker, other roadworks planned involve improvements to Linford-Pearson Highway, which will have 4 lanes, and the widening of Thomas Russell Way, as well as improvements to Edward and 4th Streets. All of these roadworks are just part of government's overall $27 million plan to improve traffic flows in and out of Cayman's capital, and will serve as a launch ramp for the revitalization of Georgetown initiative. The lessons learned with these efforts in Georgetown can serve as a template for similar improvements in possible future efforts in other districts such as Bordentown or West Bay. Madam Speaker, government has approved changes to the speed limit along West Bay Road, reducing it to 30 miles per hour, as well as installing more pedestrian walkways and improving safety along the route by preventing the middle lane from being used to overtake. These road improvements will not only increase safety, but make it easier for commuters to travel as they go to and fro their jobs. And speaking of jobs, Madam Speaker, one of the accomplishments of which I am most proud is the Progressives-led government's stance on a national minimum wage. Ours is the first government to proactively take on a minimum wage regime, which we will implement from 1st of March next year. As stated in the Minimum Wage Committee report, about 2,700 Caymanians who are classed as low or very low wage earners will have their incomes increased through minimum wage. Madam Speaker, this government also established the School of Hospitality Studies in conjunction with the Cayman Islands Tourism Association and the University of the Cayman Islands. The first graduates will receive their certifications in June 2015, and the goal is for them to enter the job market with one of the school's private sector partners. In addition, government and Cayman Finance are working in partnership to offer education and work experience in the financial services industry for up to 50 Year 12 students in the dual enrollment government system. Madam Speaker, to help keep our people healthy and fit, the Department of Sports has held 52 programs throughout the various districts that benefited hundreds of children and adults. Those programs include club sports, after-school programs, and adult fitness sessions. At Savannah Primary School, facilities have been upgraded to allow greater community access for recreational and sporting activities. The Ministry of Sports will continue to upgrade sporting facilities, starting with works at the G. Haig-Borden Playfield in Bordentown, with adequate changing room facilities and seating. Madam Speaker, we all know that mental health is also important to us as a country and a society. To that end, government has approved plans for a long-term residential mental health facility. Madam Speaker, the health of our environment is also extremely important. The historic National Conservation Law was approved in December 2013, and the National Conservation Council has been working over the past year to put the necessary systems and measures in place to facilitate the full commencement of the law. To help ensure the safety of our foodstuffs, consultancy is underway for drafting a national food and nutrition security policy and implementation strategy, which provides the best fit for the Cayman Islands, as it not only addresses key agricultural issues, but also incorporates and touches on other key areas such as health and lifestyle issues, non-communicable diseases, environmental health, environment, planning, and tourism issues. Madam Speaker, in July 2014, the Department of Agriculture, working in conjunction with the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Florida Department of Agriculture, and Consumer Services, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, successfully launched the Don't Pack a Pest program in the Cayman Islands, becoming the 5th country or territory in the Caribbean to participate in this key traveler education program. Madam Speaker, government has reestablished the Certificate for Specialist Caregivers for non-Caymanian workers hired by local families to take care of elderly, sick, or disabled patients. Under this legislation, they will be given up to a 10-year exemption from the term limit provisions of the Cayman Islands immigration law. Cabinet has also approved the country's first disabilities policy, ensuring that people with disabilities live with dignity, are respected, and participate in a full society. An interministerial committee is working towards implementation and legislation. Madam Speaker, I have just given the House a sample of our accomplishments in the first 2 years of this administration. The document I have presented today should be considered an addition to the 99-day report, which is entitled Getting Back on Course, and the first-year report, On Course, to get a solid glimpse of all that this progressive-led government has done. No one can deny that when we took over the helm of government, the country was, frankly, in a mess. We set our course to restore stability to the government and its finances, thereby restoring confidence while promoting economic growth. We made our plans, and not only have we stuck to them, we have consistently delivered progressive results. Now that stability has been restored, we will continue over the next 2 years and beyond to deliver strong, sustainable growth to ensure that all Caymanians and those who live and invest here benefit. Madam Speaker, I take inspiration from that great race car driver, Mario Andretti, the only driver to win the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, and Formula One World Championship, who said, and I quote, "Desire is the key to motivation, but it is determination and commitment to an unrelenting pursuit of your goal, a commitment to excellence that will enable you to attain the success you seek." Madam Speaker, the Progressives-led government has that desire, that determination, and that commitment to excellence. We have attained success, many achievements, in the short 2 years that we have been at the wheel of the good ship Cayman. But we are not finished, not by a long shot. We remain motivated to see our plans through the remainder of this term, and God and the people willing, into a second term. And so, Madam Speaker, it is with great pride that I have been able this morning to table in this Honorable House our midterm report titled Steering a True Course. Because, Madam Speaker, that is precisely what this progressive-led government is doing. In the words of American entrepreneur Jim Rohn, it is the set of the sails, not the direction of the wind, that determines which way we will go. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for your attention.
Government business, bills, third reading, the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 bill 2015.
Recognize the Honorable Minister responsible for Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the third reading of a bill entitled the land. Sorry, I'm out of sorts here.
Appropriation.
The appropriation, my apologies. I'm thinking ahead to this evening. I beg to read the third reading of the appropriation of the bill entitled the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 bill 2015.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 bill 2015 be given a third reading and pass. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Accordingly, the appropriation July 2015 to June 2016 bill 2015 has been passed. I propose to do the first readings and then we'll take our luncheon break.
First readings, the Film Exhibition Control Bill 2015.
I recognize the minister responsible for beg your pardon. The bill has been read the first time and set down for the second reading.
The Land Holding Companies Share Transfer Tax Amendment Bill 2015.
The bill has been deemed to have been read the first time and is also sat down for the second reading. We'll take our luncheon break and reconvene at 2 p.m.